Hello and welcome to another Spectrum Geeks video. Hope this video is finding you well. In this video I'm talking about this. It's the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS. I've been testing it out for the last week, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about my experience with it, and I think it's a watch you should consider. So this is the watch in question, and we're going to go into it in a little bit more detail. The nice people over at Mobvoi sent this watch to me the other week. I've been wearing it for just over a week on and off as I try out a few things. There's various videos of this watch available online, I'm sure. The one difference that hopefully I'm going to bring to it is I am conventionally an iOS user. I don't have any Android devices, so this is the first Android device I have ready, and obviously this being a smartwatch. And how's my experience been over the last week or so using an Android or watch OS smartwatch when I'm an iPhone user? So not all the features have been available to me, but I still have been really impressed with this watch. And not to spoil too many things, but I think this may be one of the best kind of price smartwatches on the market. So definitely something to be considering. So obviously no video is complete without talking about the specs of the device. I don't want to miss anything out, so I've printed them all off and we'll just rattle through a few of them just to kind of make sure I don't miss anything. So the TicWatch Pro Ultra 3 GPS, obviously as you'd expect, it does have GPS enablement within it. We'll talk about that in a moment. There's 5 different services of GPS that it supports. Its dimensions are 47 by 48 by 12.3 and it weighs 41 grams, so a pretty light watch but chunky in size, and you can feel it's on there. This particular colour is classed as shadow black and it has a stainless steel kind of topping. The rest of it is made out of a high strength nylon plastic with some fiberglass in there as well. The screen itself is made out of Gorilla Glass but with nice cornering, so it's it's not too sticky outy, it's nice and flush, and with an anti-fingerprint coating. So obviously, as with most smartwatches, you can use some of the buttons on the side, but you're using your finger a lot and you don't want to have smudges all over it. So that works really well. As mentioned already, it's got the Wear OS by Google operating system on there, but version 2.34. So my understanding is Wear OS 3 is available, but I think it may be exclusive right now to the Samsung smartwatches. Why it's not currently available on this watch at the time of doing the video, but I understand it is supposed to be available later on in the year. In terms of the chipset, it's got a Qualcomm Snapdragon Wear 4100 platform, and then I think it's Mobvoi's proprietary dual processor system. It's got 1 GB of RAM and 8 GB of ROM. That's enables obviously to install the apps, but also if you've got Spotify and things, you can kind of download some music to that. So when you're kind of running and doing your exercise, you don't have to have your phone with you. You can just play that all from watch with obviously Bluetooth to your headphones or earphones or whatever it is that you're using. In terms of the display, as mentioned, 1.4 inches, 454 by 454, 326 ppi, full color, always on display, which helps with the battery life, which we'll talk about in a moment. And the color display is AMOLED. It's really bright and vibrant, both in the dark obviously, but in the sunlight it's still really easy to see and use this watch. In terms of connectivity, Bluetooth 5.0, Wi-Fi supporting 802.11b, G and N, so not A, but I don't think you really need that on a smartwatch. Going back to the GPS kind of capability, so for the GNSS, so GPS, Baidu, GLONASS, Galileo and QZSS. Also supports NFC payments through Google Pay. That's not something I've tried out. Again, as mentioned before, I'm an Apple guy, so Apple Pay is what I use, but I know it does support Apple Pay. Has a built-in speaker and has a built-in microphone, so obviously for listening to any audio inputs through there, also is using it as a microphone. Has vibration alerts on there as well, PPG and a barometer, various sensors on there, so accelerometer, gyro sensor, HD PPG heart rate sensor, SpO2 sensor, low latency off-body sensor and a barometer, as we mentioned before, and the battery in here is 577 milliamp hours. And in terms of the durability, we've already mentioned about the Gorilla Glass and how rugged it is. It actually complies with one of the military standards, which is MIL STD 8106. I think this is some sort of toughness rating. It's IP68 resistant, and also you can use it to go in the pool and do swimming and all that kind of thing. So that's the main specs out of the way. Now let's talk about kind of some of my experiences with the watch, the apps, and some of the features that I really like about it. So the first thing to touch on is, of course, the display. So it has this kind of liquid crystal looking display that's kind of permanently on. It has got, again, the accelerometer in it, so when you kind of tilt the watch, it does light up in the background. You can configure that background colour to be something different. 18 different colours are choosable on it, but it just means at all times you obviously can see what's happening on the watch. You can see the date, the time, how many current steps you've done, and the seconds, and then the battery status at the bottom. So you see that all the time, and that's kind of the eco mode of the watch. If you only had it enabled in eco mode, so not using the smart features, it can last up to 45 days. So it's pretty amazing. I don't think you're necessarily going to use it in that mode unless perhaps you're going on a really long trip and you don't want some of the smart functionalities. If you are using the smart functionalities, then that is reduced. So they say that it will give you about 72 hours of usage in smart mode, which basically is using the combination of the eco and smart. So like you can see here, it's currently in the eco kind of function, but when I press the button, it kind of goes into the smart mode and you can access the different components of it. But we'll talk a little bit in a moment about my experience with that. Actually exceeded the 72 hours, but I'll talk to you about why that happens and not the issues, but some of the limitations of that longer battery life. There's loads of different apps specifically from the Mobvoi kind of functionality of apps. So obviously you do have to install the app, which we'll talk about in a moment. But there are things like Tic Health, TicExercise, TicPulse, TicSleep, TicOxygen, TicZen, TicBreathe, TicHearing, which again we'll talk about those in a moment. What I like about those compared to like my Apple Watch is typically a lot of apps that you have to install separately. Perhaps you've got to buy them, but this is all here available on this watch. And I think the watch actually looks really smart. I like the fact that you can easily change the faces. You literally just press it on the app and it's instantaneous. There's no kind of messing around and syncing kind of going on. So you can kind of get something that I think it's a smart looking watch that just happens to be a smart watch. So I think it's good for both sports and smart dress. You don't feel like you have to kind of change a watch so it looks too garish. It's kind of quite subtle and stealthy, I think. And yeah, it's something that people have asked me about the watch in the week and a half that I've been wearing it. I'm interested in what it was, but at the same time it is subtle. So I think it is very versatile in terms of kind of watching and wearing. So let's talk about some of the apps and some of the pros I think about this watch compared to like the Apple Watch that I have, and some of the restrictions or the limitations that I have using an Android based watch with an Apple iOS phone. So we kick off with some of the negatives. So as mentioned, obviously I can't use Apple Pay, but I can use Google Pay if I wanted to. I still do get notifications on the phone, whether that be text messages or perhaps emails, or my Ring alarm system is alerted to motion, but I can't interact or respond to any of them. Same as if the phone rings or I'm on the phone and making a call, I can't interact with the phone. I can't answer the phone on the watch or anything like that like I can with the Apple Watch. Now that's really more because obviously Apple locked down their phones, so only have to work with their Apple Watch. And that's not actually something I use very regularly on my Apple Watch, so it's not something I've really missed. Again, the only thing that I say I have missed is I do like the fact on my Apple Watch I can tap the screen when I get one of my Ring alarm notifications and I can see a snapshot of the video to see if there's someone at the door or a car going past. But again, that's a negative, but again, not something that's a showstopper. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I really like and enjoy this watch, I think it is something worth recommending, especially for the price point. Now, if we look at the apps on the phone, that's another thing that's quite good about it. As I mentioned before, you haven't got to download and install a load of apps. They're kind of natively available, and you get presented with quite a lot of decent information that is usable to see all in one place, as opposed to having to navigate different apps and try and drill into different information. So the watch has been charging, and I had to obviously leave it off whilst doing some other tests, some other products. But you can see when you load up the system, right at the top here, we can see a little bit about mental health and your energy levels. It does take a little bit of time when you first get the watch to work out how to enable all of these functions. It's not super straightforward, but as you kind of go into each of them, it basically says, you have to allow monitoring and enable this and have certain privacy. You also have to have an account on the Mobvoi app to enable some of these features to work effectively, really, and speak to the app as well. So it took me a little bit of time to kind of work all that out, but once you're in there, again, you can see here information on metal fatigue. If you want to tap on them, you can go into it in more detail, going back days, weeks and months, and then kind of specifically see your stress levels and your energy levels. And this is supposed to help, obviously, both during your working day, but more specifically with fitness. Haven't done a lot of exercise over the week of having this watch, so don't be shocked that there's not too much going on here. So we can see today, active hours 7, 11 minutes of exercise. I did actually put down the chip shop, so that's not really exercising, but I did go on the bike. That's another thing that I noticed. It doesn't automatically seem to detect that you may be engaged in activity like I have with Apple Watch. You have to specifically, click on the exercise piece to say, hey, I'm going to do an outdoor walk or an indoor walk or an outdoor cycle or an indoor cycle. It doesn't happen automatically, hence there being no exercise data, because when I went on the bike, I didn't press the bike function. Then we have information about heart rate. So you can see right now my resting heart rate is 82. The highest I've had is 119, which is probably when I was on the bike earlier. And then the lowest would be 61. Also got oxygen levels on there. So that's obviously the oxygen level sensors that we have on here as well. So you can see it's looking pretty good at 98%. Stress being average. Lots of meetings today, but overall stress levels aren't too bad. I have no noise data. There is a decibel capability on this watch, so when you kind of press that, it will alert the fact that you may be in an area where the volume is too loud. One thing I've realised with testing this watch out, I often have the YouTube videos on too loud when I'm watching them. Perhaps I should turn them down a little bit to protect my hearing. But all that information is here in one nice easy place to see. I'm going to go through multiple different apps to try and find it, and I really like the fact that that's kind of nice and easy to use. Obviously from in here as well, we can look at different watch faces that are available. Also, we've got to be connected to the watch. You can also do that through Wear OS as well, so you don't have to have the Mobvoi app on to do that. So as you can see here, multiple different watch faces available, and as soon as you tap one of them, the watch face changes instantaneously. It's going to be difficult for me probably to show you this, but you see here, it turns off already. It does go into power saving mode pretty quickly, so as soon as you're not using it, it's difficult for me to show you. I'll include some overlays. Basically, as soon as you tap the different facial icon, just like that, it's been applied to the watch. So it's quite nice that you don't have to mess around too much with that. Different settings that you can set up there in terms of kind of the tile format of the apps, as well as whether you want things in metric or non-metric systems as well. Obviously, it's got Google Assistant enabled on the watch as well, so you can use that.
What's the weather like tomorrow?
Saturday in Pershore, it'll be partly cloudy, with a high of 18 and a low of 8.
You can configure different notifications for the apps, whether you want to pop that up on the screen. So I've got things like the weather notifications of rain starting and other sorts of things happening there, Facebook messages and whatnot. So I think this is a really good watch. I think I put a message on the screen. I think it's about £280 at the time of doing this review. There is a link down in the description if you want to get one of these from Mobvoi. But £280, that's a lot cheaper than an Apple Watch. And like I said, even as an Apple user, I'm not actually missing the benefits that I have of an Apple Watch over this. And I think if I didn't have an Apple Watch, I probably would just get one of these. Most of the time, actually now I'm thinking about it, I've only worn my Apple Watch once since getting this. I've either had this watch on or not been wearing a watch. Again, just had the Apple Watch on just to compare and contrast. But I think I like the watches that look more like a watch. Different people like different things. I guess I should just clarify, this isn't a paid review at all. This is really my honest feelings. They're not getting to see this video before it goes out. Just the device has been given to me for free to review. But yeah, I'm really impressed. I think if you're looking for a smartwatch that's relatively intuitive to use, has lots of smart features, but isn't too over the top, and again, if you want to use it without those smart features, just as a watch function, which I think most people do, unless you're really into exercising, you're probably going to install the Strava app or something, and do loads of funky stuff with it. But I think most time we like the idea of a smartwatch, but we're not necessarily using all the features. But it's nice to have the heart rate monitoring and all those other things pre-installed and set up on this. So let me just grab my notes to talk about how long it took to charge from empty and how long the watch has lasted for me from a single charge. So in terms of charge time, when I first got the watch, it had a little bit of charge on it, so I left it on till it fully depleted, and then from fully empty to fully charged, it took 1 hour 53 minutes, which I think is pretty good quick charging time. So again, if you need to pop out, and it was depleted, you could plug it in quickly, and in a few minutes you'd get a good couple of hours out of it for sure. In terms of the run time, this is the thing that's most interesting to me. So I left it in smart mode, so not the eco mode where you're going to try and get 45 battery days out of it. So in the smart mode, obviously you've got the smartwatch functionalities, but it automatically defaults back into that eco mode where you have the crystalline kind of display, and only then when you kind of tap the buttons can you then get access to the smart functions. That's another thing, these buttons, they turn but they don't do anything, they're only buttons to push. But anyway, I got 4.5 days from a full charge to when the watch then turned off. So that's pretty amazing. So just to be clear though, that 4.5 days is not full smart mode availability. Basically, I don't know what time within those 4.5 days the smart functionality bits stop working, but the main point is that the watch will kind of get to a point where it defaults itself to eco mode, so that then it prolongs the life of the battery for wearing it over those days. So I was really impressed because, again, with an Apple Watch, I tend to plug that into charge just every night because I get typically over 24 hours, but just take it off for bed and don't worry about it. Whereas this, it's much better, especially if you want to do the sleep tracking and things like that. It's going to last longer. You can get more data out of it without having to charge it up all the time. So I know battery life is important to some people, not important to others, but again, I'm pretty impressed. 4.5 days for a smartwatch is pretty damn good. But obviously you don't get all the smart feature recording for all of that time because obviously some of those bits have been disabled, but still pretty good. So that's my thoughts on the TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra GPS from an Apple user. I definitely recommend this watch, and like I said, if I didn't have the Apple Watch, this would be the watch I think I would get. I think compared to Apple Watches and some of the Samsung smartwatches, there's not really too much to choose from. I think this looks smart, it works really well. I love the fact that it has, I guess, some of those important smart features where you can obviously track your vitals and do your heart rate and your blood oxygen levels and stuff. I think that's really good. It's great that you can install the apps. It's great that it has NFC functionality. It's good that it's tough and robust. I've not been careful whilst wearing this watch. I've been doing work in the workshop, painting sheds, doing some decorating, cleaning, all sorts of stuff, and it's absolutely pristine, just like it was the day I got it out of the box. No marks, no scratches, no scuffs, no nothing. I know in some other reviews people have moaned a little bit that it feels a bit cheap because the top of it is metal and then the rest of it is not. I don't think so at all. I think the watch looks smart. I think it feels smart, it looks smart, it looks like a quality piece, but again, not a fraction of the price, but a good price point compared to the other smartwatches. So thanks very much to Mobvoi for sending this to me so I could check it out, and yeah, I think I'm going to be wearing it for the foreseeable. Like I said, I haven't put the Apple Watch on for a while, so yeah, I recommend it. Check out the link below if you're interested in getting one. Perhaps you've got one of these and you've got different opinion. I'd really be interested to hear from you down in the comments. But that's it for now. As always, thanks very much for watching. Take care of yourself. Until next time, bye for now.